Oh, wait a minute. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Let's Get Social. And we are going to be doing part 2 of Simplicity 9825. And I am just logging into my other platform. Oh my goodness, I got to remember the login. There we go. There we go. Okay, wonderful. Anyway, welcome to Let's Get Social. And we again are going to be working on Simplicity 9825. As a reminder, we are doing things a little bit differently than we have done in the past, which is that instead of doing one pattern over the course of one session, we are going to be doing one pattern over the course of anywhere from 2 to 4 sessions. And my goal of doing it that way is to encourage people to sew along. Hi, Sabrina, welcome. Happy Friday. Is to encourage people to sew along with me. So when you start to look at the lives, if you're watching this after the fact, you're going to see a part 1, a part 2, a part 3, a part 4. Usually it should be no more than 4. The goal is to do it between 2 and 4. And so we are on part 2 of Simplicity 9825. Hi, Lala, welcome. Welcome. We're on part 2, so I'm really excited about that. And we're going to really just dive right into part 2. It is so, anyway, you see me in my kind of summer wear because I was out running these streets today. I had like some errands to run, and luckily I set things up so I was able to kind of run back in and get things started. But hopefully, if you're not already in the summer spirit, you will be in the summer spirit because, you know, we got shoulders out, we got, well, not backs out, but we got, today is, you know, days we're totally drawing our summer vibe. So anyway, we're going to get started. So for those that are watching again this in the replay, if you want to see steps 1 through 7, you're going to go to part 1. For those that are sewing along today, we are going to be starting with number 8, part number 8. I encourage you to interface as much as possible beforehand. But if you didn't, don't worry. We're going to be moving at a sewing, what I call a sewing pace. So if you did not interface, you will be able to do it and you won't fall too far behind. Okay, so with that said, here is our dress form and where we left off from last week. And so pull this out. I'm gonna move that to the side. Okay, and so what I did is, here is our, so just as a recap, we did interface our undercollar, which is what you see attached here. This is the undercollar, this piece right here. We interface that, and then we are going to stitch the center back seam of the undercollar sections. And so, hold on, let me just tell you. Okay, we're going to stitch the center back seams. And so basically what you're stitching is, and let me just show you because this is a little different from how I've done it in the past. So you have, this is, let me turn it around this way too so you can see it a little bit better. So with right sides facing, you are going to pin your, let me just turn this around so you can see too. You're going to pin your collar, your undercollar, to this portion of your it's your front of your jacket. So here's your front of your blazer, and you have this little portion right here. It's like the L portion of your blazer. It's basically that part that would your collar. It's basically the collar portion of the front part of your jacket. There's basically a notch and 2 dots, and basically you're going to sew across from dot to dot. So there's a dot here and a dot here, and then there's a notch in the middle. And you're going to just sew this section up. So it's basically from this corner all the way to the end at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're going to sew just right here. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. You're just going to, there's again, it's a dot right here, and there's a dot right here, and then there's a notch in the middle, and you're going to line, and you'll also have the same thing on your undercollar. You're going to see those dots, you're going to see that notch, you're going to line that up, and we are just going to stitch those pieces first. Again, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to just stitch right across those pieces. And then the next step is we're then going to be stitching the actual collar pieces across. But first things first, we're going to stitch those two pieces. Hi, Aisha, welcome. Let's see. Hi, Deborah. Welcome. Hey, Brooklyn. Thank you all for the likes. The likes help to alert people that we're here, and then they hop on because, of course, it's Friday. It's beautiful outside, and so people may be out in the streets. Oh, get that back so you can see. And let me add. There we go. So I am going to, let me just move this back, give myself some space. And I am now going to stitch. And let me just read these instructions just to make sure we don't miss any pieces. So we're going to apply the interfacing to the undercollar, which we did. We're going to stitch the center back seams of the undercollar sections with right sides together. And then we're going to pin the front edge of the undercollar to the jacket, which is that front edge that I showed you, matching. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me say this, because I think I talked about this before we ended the last time. So let me just say this. Your undercollar piece, and I think we did this on the last session, but I'm just going to repeat it. So your undercollar is two pieces. And so when we say stitch the center, basically they're saying put these two undercollar pieces together and stitch at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, which creates basically one undercollar piece. So I just want to say that because I think I may have confused it when I initially was talking about. So once you do that, which we did that on our last session, but it is a part of step 8. So I just want to repeat that. So once you do that, that is when you are going to do the next step, which is that you are going to pin the front edge of the undercollar to the jacket, matching those small dots. So remember, I told you there's a dot on each one of those corners, and then there's a notch in the middle. So you're going to match those small dots, the small dots, the large dot, and then the notches. You're going to stitch in between the small and the large dots, and then you're going to press that seam open. And so we are going to be doing the stitching right now, and then we're going to press that seam open. So again, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance is what we're doing. And then we're going to do both sides, and then we'll and I should probably have my little table on here to help support. Because you don't want your fabric to be hanging down, because that could have some impact on your stitches. So I just kind of drape it over my sleeve or over my arm is what I do to help relieve any tension that might be there. But you could also put your table, your attachment on as well. All right, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, align those dots. And then again, you're going to stitch from the small dot to the large dot, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance is what we're doing. And here we go. I'm going to go a little bit further because I didn't quite make it to my dot. So the one thing you want to remember is that when you have interfacing, you want to make sure that before that you interface, it's helpful to interface before you transfer all of your markings, because otherwise they'll be covered by the interfacing. And then sometimes, like in my case, I have interfacing on one side but not on the other. I'm sorry, I have my notches on one side. And so you just have to make sure that when you are stitching that you can see your dots. All right, I have one done, and now I'm going to do the other one. And again, we're doing this at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. From the large dot to the small dot. And then you're going to also do a quick back stitch. Hey, Kay, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. Hi, LeAngela. Hey, Jalen. Hi, Elizabeth. Okay. So you can see that we now have the edges of our undercollar sewn on. And this is basically what it looks like. You'll see that middle part is open. And what it's telling us at this point is we do have to press open our seams. So what I did do is today I brought out my little teeny Cricut iron, because we don't really have that much ironing to do. I think we have a piece of interfacing that we're going to apply, and then we have to press these seams open. So nothing major. So I didn't bring out the big iron. So we're going to press those pieces, those seams open. And then we are not going to trim the seams for now. It says that we should leave the seams, and then we're going to trim them later. But while we're waiting for our iron to heat up, we are going to clip the back neck edge of the jacket. And so basically, because this is on a curved edge, we're going to kind of create some little clips in there to help us, one, to be able to attach it. Excuse me. To be able to attach it to here, because you can see that we're going to need a little bit of room to make sure that the undercollar can really attach well here. So we're going to create a couple of little clips where we're going to cut into it a little bit. And where we are, let's see. We're going to clip the back neck edge of the jacket to the stay stitching along the curve. So if you all remember, we put a stay stitch in here, and you probably can see it. We're going to cut down we're going to make a couple of little cuts, not through our stay stitch, but just down to it. And again, that's going to help us. So I'm just going to make a couple of little cuts. And I'm just cutting. Let me just make sure you could see this. There we go. All right, here we go. Make sure both my cameras are picking this up. Let's see. Can you see this? Can you see this? Okay, good. So just doing a couple of little cuts around the curve. Again, not cutting through the stay stitch, but just enough where it's going to give me that flexibility I need. There we go. So we put those cuts in, and now my iron is fully heated. So I'm just gonna press open using my little Cricut iron. All right, that's done. And then our next step is that we are going to move to step 9, which is really just attaching the remainder, that middle portion. We're going to be attaching that middle portion of our undercollar to our back of our jacket. So we're going to do the same thing, align our center seam. So you're going to have a center seam in that collar, and then you will also have a center seam in your back part of your jacket. We're going to align those and pin across. And then we'll stitch across. So I am just sticking a pin right in the middle of those seams, again, to ensure that they are aligned. And it's right sides together also as you're stitching these. Or as you're pinning and as you're stitching them. And you'll see those little slits come in handy as you have to stretch out the back of your jacket to fit on the undercollar. Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciate you for that. Thank you. Okay, this is perfect. So I have that one side pinned, and now I'm pinning the other side. And those little cuts really make a difference in terms of your ability to kind of stretch the fabric to fit along that entire undercollar. So you're lining up those raw edges, and you're going to just pin those. I'm telling you, the excitement that I have to finish this like makes me want to sew all night. I have literally been waiting for today just to like work on this jacket. It has given me some anxiety to just see it up there partly finished. Just wanting to, finish it because I'm excited about how it's going to look and how my efforts of coordinating all these different types of fabrics and colors of fabric. Okay, so I think we are done pinning it. That's what it looks like pinned. And now we are literally going to use our stay stitch as a guide. And we're going to follow that, but again, making sure that we're 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, that we're keeping that. But we're going to use it as a guide to help us stitch our undercollar to the back of the jacket. So with that said, let's go back to let us go back and we're going to start stitching this. Now, the one thing that's a little interesting about this is, and let me just make sure that, okay, to stitch remaining neck edge and make dart in front or inside with right sides together, bring stitching lines together. Oh, okay. Pause. Let's pause. Hey, Carmen. Hello, Black Sewing Network. Okay. So we're going to do one we're gonna have a moment of pause right now. So before we stitch our undercollar, and let me just so you all can see me, before we stitch our undercollar to our back, pause, 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 we do have a dart that we have to put in. So we have a dart right here in the front. Well, you can't see it from that side because the markings are on the interfacing side. So we have a dart literally right here. And I actually need to put it in because my invisible ink is disappearing, so you can't see it, but it is basically right here. Welcome, Mary from Tennessee. Yes, so it does have a dart. It does have a dart in it. So what I'm going to have you do is just take out there. If you've pinned it already, just take out this small portion right here. You don't have to take out the part in the neck because we do need to, actually you could take out those 2 pins. We do need to do that, put that dart in first because you won't be able to put it in if you stitch that whole collar on. So, and it's interesting that they didn't have us do the dart even before we put this piece on, but they don't because the dart is a part of piece number 9. So we're going to do our dart how we normally do darts, which is that we are going to pinch our 2 lines together. And the one thing I will say that's good about this invisible ink is that it does disappear. So I'm actually going to take my pen and just retrace my line because it is almost gone. So I can make sure that I can clearly see where my dart is supposed to go. And now you might be able to clearly see it too. That is the dart. And then you have the same thing on the other side. And so I'm just going to retrace that. And then you'll be able to see the same thing on, can you see that on the other side? So before we completely finish sewing that, we need to take our front part of our blazer, fold it so that those 2 dots match up. And then in my case, to make it easier, I am going to press it. And then I'm going to stitch. And I'm going to press it just because it will make it so much easier for me to all right, let me see. I'm going to adjust this camera just a little bit. I'll fix that so you can see that a little bit better. There we go. You got to be careful too because your line will disappear. So this is one press down, and now I'm going to sew this. And this actually will help because I literally noticed that as I was pinning it, I did have to stretch that part a little bit. The dart is really small, to be honest with you. It's a very small dart. So again, you really cannot see it that well. I mean, in terms of it, it's little. Like this is what the dart is. Just so you could see how little that is. It's very little. So, and now I can literally put back in those 2 pins that I had in for the undercollar that I took out. I'm going to put those 2 pins back in. So just to clarify, before you're going to still stitch your undercollar in on the 2 edges. You're going to still put those 2 stitches in, but before you pin the undercollar to the back in the middle, you are going to make sure that you put your darts in. And so we just put one dart in, and now we are about to do the other side. So the same, I'm going to follow that same process, which is I'm just going to press it, align my 2 dots. I'm going to press them together, and then I am going to, and then I'm going to stitch it right across. And sometimes it helps to stick a pin in there if you need to, but again, these darts are really small. So I'm just going to press it. Hey, Dee. Yes, it does help with the fold over collar, 100%. It's, you know, my thought is like, it's really little. So, you know, my initial thinking is, okay, do I really need this? Because it's so little. But there we go. But we'll see. I mean, it definitely is making the undercollar fit on it. All right, here we go. We're going to start right here at the top. So you have a dot that you're starting at the top of. There we go. And now I can basically finish or repin the area that I took out. And now we are going to go back to finish step 9, which is to stitch from side to side our undercollar to our center back along the stitch lines. And the other thing that I will mention is that we are going to do the same thing that we did when we did the stay stitching, which is that you are going to start from the middle and stitch out to the side on one side, and then you're going to come back to the middle and you're going to stitch back to the other side as well. So we're going to make sure that we do that. I'm telling you, when I first started sewing, I did not do that. There was probably a point where I read the instructions and I didn't even know what it meant. So I did it my own way. I'm confident that that's what I did. It's one of those kind of fake it till you make it situations. So here we go. Again, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, making sure that your edges are lined up, which they should be because you pin them, and there is no bulk. Everything is laying flat. We are removing our pins over here. We're not sewing over pins. No judgment, no shade. What you do is your business. Okay. And let me just see. Okay, there we go. So we are basically taking this down to the dot where we started our dart. So we'll do a quick back stitch, and I'm going to show you what this one side looks like on the right side. So look at that. Oh, look how neat that is. You see that? That is so neat. Look how neat that little part is right there. That is super neat. Okay, let's do the other side. I'm gonna sell this in somebody's store. Hi, Miss Alethea. Welcome. Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you for being here. Okay, let me make sure I'm not missing any comments. Hi, Miss Tata. Welcome. Hi, Maylin. Welcome. All right, so we are doing the same thing on the other side, starting in the center. And we're going to go in the other direction. 5/8 7-inch seam allowance, edges lined up, and no bulk underneath. It's laying flat. And again, we're going to stitch all the way till we get to the dot that we use to start our dart. And then we're also going to make sure that all of these seams that we pressed open are also laying flat. There's no bulk. So I'm doing that right now. Okay, there we go. Ah. Okay, there we go. Again, just making sure that we don't have any bulk. Can you all see? Oh, you can't see this. Let's see. There you go. I think you can see. All right, I think that's better. And I think you can see too. Again, just trying to make sure that all that is lined up. All right, there we go. I'm gonna move this to the side, and I'm gonna show you this other side, how this is looking so good. Same thing over here. You could see that. Look how that's just like, that's like perfect. I'm impressed with myself. Look how that's just so perfect. Ah, okay, I'm excited. Okay, so let's see. We have completely finished step 9. So finish step 8, finish step 9. And now it is telling us, step 10 is to trim our next seam between the darts. And then we're going to clip the curves, and then we're going to press those seams open. So let's see. So basically it's telling us this. So here's your dart right here. You have one on each side, and it's telling us to kind of clip this area between the darts. So remember it said don't clip it earlier, but now it's telling us to clip this. So I am going to clip this area. I'm always like hesitant, honestly, to clip anything that I have serged, because I always think like, is it going to come unraveled? But this is truly going to be inside of the jacket. So the directions are to clip it. I'm not clipping it. I'm not clipping it. It's my business. I'm not clipping it. But what I would say is that my fabric is fairly thin. I'm not worried about bulk in this area, but technically the instructions tell you to clip between the darts. So that would basically be this whole center part of your, again, between the neck, between the darts. So that's your whole neckline area. And so I'm going to show you from this side. This is your okay, here we go. This is your undercollar. So you're going to basically, one from where my fingers are, this is where your darts are, and you're literally going to just clip the seam allowance in between. As I stated earlier, I decided just now, I'm not clipping it because my fabric is really thin and I'm not worried about bulk, but that's the instructions. Step 10 is to trim between the darts, clip the curved areas, and then you're going to press the seam open, and you're going to press the dart away from the center. So those are all things that that you should be doing at this step. I am going to press the dart away from the center. So I am going to do that. Does it make a difference? Hey, Khalees. So I got a question and it says, hi, Anna. Welcome. Thank you for stopping by. You are appreciated. Okay, so the question is, does it make a difference if you don't clip it? It can. It can make a difference if your fabric is thick and bulky. It can make a difference. My fabric is not thick. I'm using, even with the interfacing, it is not thick. So I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I will tell you that whenever I serge something because the fabric is going to fray, I'm always like really hesitant to clip it after I've serged it. And even though in this case, the fabric is that whole serged area that would be cut is going to be enclosed. So the risk of it fraying is probably very minimal, but I haven't built up trust in the process. So I'm giving the directions so that you know the right thing, but the more you sew, you will start to make decisions about how you handle things like clipping the seam allowance and whether you want to do it or whether you don't want to do it. Hi, Charmaine. Welcome. So yeah, so when they say clip it, it really is to eliminate bulk, or in some cases where we clipped around the curved areas is to create some flexibility of the fabric so that you can pin it or you can stretch it along a curved area. Otherwise it will be restricted and it will make it hard for you to stretch it along that curve. And so that's what we did in this area earlier. Okay, so I have pressed my darts away from the center of the garment. So you're basically kind of pressing them towards this, the edge is where you're pressing them. So we've done those two pieces, at those two steps, and now we are going to move to step, get my pen so we can, so we've done 8, we've done 9, we've done 10. Okay, so we're gonna move this. We're gonna put this over here for now. And we are gonna pull out our arm pieces. We're gonna pull out piece 11 and piece 12. So as I mentioned earlier, I used, again, a lot of different fabrics. So Mary asked, hi, Gaynell, do we need to, I'm assuming you're saying understitch it. So let's see. Trims, press seam open, press starts away from center. So they're not giving us instructions to understitch it at this point. So my initial thought is that no, we are not understitching it. but we still have to apply. So this blazer, dress, jacket, depending on the fabric that you're using and the length that you have made it, it could be any one of those things, is fully lined. So I just want you all to be aware of that piece, and that can have some impact on the order in which we are doing things. So just want you to be mindful of that also. Okay, so we are going to pull out pieces 11 and piece 12, which we have right here. Piece 11 is our undersleeve, and I have a dark jean fabric for that. And then we have piece 12, which is also a light jean. And so I have that piece. And what it is telling us to do is it is telling us to cut a 1.5 inch wide strip of fusible interfacing from a remnant, which I have done that. And we're going to apply it to the extensions on the upper sleeve and the undersleeve. And then it says, if you prefer, you can also apply an additional 2-inch wide piece above the lower edge of the upper and under sleeves, making sure interfacing sections do not overlap. And then you can pin the undersleeve, upper sleeve to the undersleeve at the front edge, and then we're going to stitch. So that's basically applying or attaching the sleeve pieces. So what we are going to do together here is we are going to apply this piece of interfacing. So I cut a piece of interfacing that is 1.5 inches wide, and we're going to apply one piece to our undersleeve and one piece to our oversleeve. We are not going to do the second piece of interfacing. I'm going to show you where that piece would go, but we're not going to be doing it. And we're going to be applying this strip to the wrong side of the fabric. And so let me show you exactly where it is going to go. I'm going to pin it here just so you can see where it is going to go. And I'm going to hold this up so you can see where it is going to go. I'm going to clip it rather. So here is our, what is this? Our undersleeve. And this is where the piece is going to go. So you have this little edged out piece, and we're going to put it here. Now, if you decide to take another piece and put it here, what it's saying is they don't want the interfacing to overlap. So you're going to make it a little bit shorter. You're going to end it right here, and then you'll have a piece that comes down right here, and then you will have a piece that comes and stops right here. So there'll be a piece right there, and then there'll be another piece basically right here to the end. So this is what you would be doing if you are going to follow both of those steps about where to put the interfacing. This piece going up and down is optional. And this piece is part of the instruction, is to put this piece here. So we're going to put this piece here, and we are going to not put this piece here. But you could put it there if you would like. And I believe the reason why we are putting that piece on is because there are, I believe there's a button that goes, yes, there are 2 buttons. So that's why I believe they're saying you can put that piece right here. So it's not a bad idea, particularly depending on your fabric, to put a piece right here. So maybe we should probably put it there. I have pieces already cut, so we'll probably go ahead and put a piece right there. So what I'll do is just, again, to make sure they don't overlap, I'll just put a piece right here. I'll cut it short. We'll do our piece across, and then we'll do our piece down, and we're going to do that on both of the under pieces, and then I will show you where it will go on the overarm or the undersleeve. I mean the upper sleeve piece. So we're doing the undersleeve right now, and then we will do the oversleeve. All right, and Again, I have my little Cricut iron since we only have just little pieces to interface. Thank you so much for the likes and the gifts. The roses are awesome. Thank you. All right, so I've put that piece on, and while I'm at it, I am going to, all right, that piece is for there, and then I have this other little piece right here. So I am just going to make an adjustment. Again, making sure that I don't have any overlap. And I'm gonna apply that other piece, and I will show you in a minute. What that looks like. So there you go. There you go. Oh, thank you so much, Black Sewing Network. Black Sewing Network just made a gift. So for those that aren't aware, Let's Get Social is monetized. Thank you to all of you, all of your follows and sharing. And so Carmen did just make a gift. So thank you so much. You are so appreciated. And you can see her. She just gave me a super sticker. I feel so special right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna apply my second piece. And for those that don't know, when you do that, you get like a little special color so that you're able to see, like her label turned green and then it turned red. Because she just out here, Black Sewing Network is just showing off. Oh my goodness. Black Sewing Network said, hey, thank you. You just trying out all of the things. I appreciate you. I feel like I'm getting rich right now. This is so great. This is, part of what allows us, and not just me, but any of us in the sewing community that are monetized to pour back into the sewing community. So we are grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. And I got a super sticker. Thank you. I feel so special. Okay, so here we are. This is our undersleeve, and we have applied our interfacing to both parts of our undersleeve. And now we're going to put this to the side, and we're going to deal with our upper sleeve. So here's our upper sleeve, and we are literally doing the same thing to our upper sleeve. And let me just show you what I mean by the same thing. So here is our upper sleeve, and we're going to take this piece, which is also 1.5 inches wide, and we're going to basically put that across. And so you have, again, another area where it sticks out. You're going to go right below that area, and you are going to pin it right across. Thank you, Dee. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, y'all are out here supporting the sister. I feel so appreciated right now. Thank you. So we're going to go right across here, and then we're going to take another little piece and we're going to go put it right here in this section. But first things first, we're going to do this. Thank you so much, Black Sewing Network, and thank you so much, Dee. I feel so appreciated. I really appreciate all of you. Again, all of those, they allow us to continue to contribute and do all that we're doing to bring sewing to our community. So thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Look, everyone can use a good blazer. Look, this is a blazer, this is a dress, this is a jacket. So it's what you need it to be. So even if, you know, we're going into the summer and you're like, I want to use a light linen and I want to make this into a dress. And then you're going into the fall and you're like, hey, I need a blazer. So you're going to use, you know, a heavyweight, maybe a heavyweight linen or or maybe a jean, a thicker jean, a weighted jean, and you're going to make a blazer, or you're going to use something thicker and make a jacket as you go into the winter. You are going to master these skills to be able to do that. And again, it is fully lined. So you got options. You have options in how you do this. So this pattern is really a great pattern to learn because you could get a lot out of this pattern for sure. So my hope is that based on my measurements and everything I did, that this is going to fit like a dress. But if it doesn't, then that's all the more reason that it'll be a blazer, and I'll make another one to make a dress. So you are very welcome. I'm so happy. And for those that are sewing along, let me know, drop it in the chat, hit me in my direct message. If you do sew along after the fact, let me know if you have any questions. I'm so happy to assist and answer those questions. So again, this is how it will look after you interface. Again, minimizing the overlap that you would have, but this is what you would do. And now we're going to take it and do the same thing on the other side. So I did a poll. Some of you did respond to the poll. Thank you so much. And, you know, I asked in the poll, and for those that aren't aware that didn't answer the poll, I said, hey, I'm going to be doing things a little bit different going forward. So as you all know, I usually put out a schedule, which I will still be putting out a schedule. I'm going to put out the rest of the May schedule, just trying to get a feel for how this new way of doing things is working. But I typically put out a schedule and tell you everything I'm going to be doing for the next, you know, 2 to 3 months at a time, just so you can plan and pick up your patterns and decide, and your fabrics and all of those things. But I usually try to do a single pattern every single week. Like we move from one pattern to the next pattern to the next pattern every week. And my goal is, again, I was a new sewist not too long ago, and it's a lot sometimes to go through an entire pattern and sew for 2 and 3 hours at a time, particularly when you are still trying to learn that skill set. And what I really want is for people to sew along. I really want people to, you know, feel comfortable. And so I'm trying something a little bit different. We'll see how it works. We'll see the feedback that I get from people. But we're going to do one pattern over the course of 2 to 4 weeks, you know, depending on how long it takes us. And so I did a poll just to see, like, to get a feel for how people felt. Would that encourage them to sew along? And I got some good feedback that, you know, people felt like, yes, that will probably make a difference, allow me to sew along. And also, if you're not available every week, then it's not too much to catch up in between, because we're only doing, you know, 10 steps at a time, so to speak, again, depending on how much we get to in a 2 to 2.5 hour, you know, period. So here we go. This is the other undersleeve that is done. So we're going to try this. We're going to do this probably over the summer. And then I'll do another poll and we'll revisit it. I'll see how many people sewed along with us and how it worked for us. But my goal is to, you know, again, to get more people to sew. That's what I'm really excited about. And so hopefully this new approach will get people to sew. And obviously there's preferences, so people won't sew everything, but if more people are sewing along, then that to me means success. So, okay. So now we have added our extra interfacing. And the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to right sides together. We are going to line up, and this is the wrong piece. We are going to line up our edges, and you will have notches. You will markings that you put in place to line up, but we are going to basically line up these pieces, and then we're going to clip them together. Where's my clips? Oh, here we go. I switch back and forth. I prefer pins, but I will use clips when necessary, but we're going to use clips. We're going to clip it together, and then we are going to sew straight down this piece. Again, we're going to stay with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And here we go. So that's what that looks like. Oops. There you go. And so I'm going to clip the other one. Again, right sides together. Lining up those raw edges. I'm like just super excited. I haven't been excited about, I mean, I guess I'm excited about a lot of things that I sew, but I'm really excited about this one because, like I said, I am doing a lot of different types of fabrics, which, you know, can be interesting just to see how they all fit together. So the other thing I think I'm learning in this process is that sometimes things don't always turn out. You know, the great thing about being a sewist is that you can really try different things and get comfortable with different things. And sometimes we stick with what's easy, what's simple, what's familiar. But as a sewist, you really get to try different things. And so I'm just excited about how all this is going to fit together. The other thing is that you learn different things about the fabric that you sew together and how it looks together, and, you know, how it, you know, what different changes that you could make. So this is potentially how this is going to look. We'll see how it all fits. One thing I do notice in this fabric is that it's not directional, but you can kind of see like how it looks like it wants to go in one direction. So there's no direction to it, but I guess the grain is different, and you can actually see it very much. So if I would have thought about that beforehand, I would have turned this a different direction, because it is clear that this one, the grain is going up and down, vertical on this one, and the grain is going horizontally on this one. Not a huge deal, but it's not something that I thought about because I didn't think about it. And so as I'm looking at them side by side, I can clearly see that one is going in one direction and one is going in the other. But again, it's a learning experience. And so now that's something that I share with you if you weren't aware of that when you were cutting, you know, fabric that is like jean or other fabric. You will want to look at to see if there is a direction to the grain, and if you have the ability to turn it around in a different direction. Because the other thing you want to pay attention to is, you know, it tells you, you know, when you're cutting, where the grain line should be. So in this case, I just really paid attention to that. The one thing I will tell you about this fabric is one of them is a little, well, it's stretchy. The interfacing obviously has some impact on that, but one of these jean fabrics is, oh, both of them actually have a little bit of stretch to it. So I probably could have gotten away with going against the grain just to make it line up. But again, you learn. All right, so here we go. We are now going to sew this at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, lining up those raw edges. Remember to back stitch. There we go, one sleeve done. I just want to make sure that there we go. Here we go, one down. Now we're going to do this other one. And again, we're doing the same thing, starting with a little bit of a back stitch and then stitching straight down, aligning those raw edges. And we're doing it at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I think Atlanta Frock Tales is tomorrow. Anybody going to the Atlanta Frock Tales? Drop it in the chat. Are you finished your dress, or are you on sewist time, which basically means that you are sewing up until the moment that you walk out the door? No shade, because we all have been there. In fact, this is where we live. We live on sewist time. That's what we do. So definitely no shade. And then I'm so excited because Baltimore just announced that they are also having a Frock Tales on, I think it's August the 3rd. So drop it in the chat if you are going to the Baltimore Frock Tales. I am definitely going. That's my hometown. So I will be there in normal order, and I'm excited about that as well. And then, of course, you all know it's the countdown to the first ever Chicago Frock Tale. So we are also equally as excited about that. And here we go. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Mary said, you've been sewing since 12 a.m. Look, Mary, I'm sending you my blessings because I feel you. I've been there. That was me going up to the DC Fashion Show a couple years ago. That was me going into the day before I was leaving to go up to the New York Frock Tales because my outfit didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So I feel you. I feel you, and I'm sending you all of the grace so that you are able to get finished in time to be able to get some rest and go to the Frock Tales event. So you got this. Okay, there we go. And we are going to press open our seams. So let's see. Hi, CMC Inspired. Hi, RV Beads. Welcome. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Carol. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. I want to go to Baltimore Frock Tales. I have to check my schedule. Yes, come to Baltimore Frock Tales. I think it's August the 3rd, so it's right in the middle of Artscape. I'm almost sure it is. So yeah, check your schedule. See if the stars align and you can make it. I know it's like August is often a busy vacation time. People are out on vacation. I'm not vacationed out because can you ever be vacationed out? Like, no. But your girl is saving her coins, so I will be doing probably staycations. I was just thinking to myself, like, my thought was when I came back from Dubai, I was like, I'm not going anywhere for the rest of the year. And then I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, it's only March. Like, am I really not going anywhere for the rest of the year? Like, you telling me I can't like find a way to kind of get to somebody's beach? You know, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm definitely going to be showing up at my Frocktails in my own state. I'm excited about that. We're going to have a great time. And like I said, it's in the middle of Artscape, so there's going to be lots to do. All right. Okay, so we have, you said that's your birthday month, so you hope to be there. Okay, I know that's right. So are you, what is it? Are you a Leo or whatever the other sign? I only know Leo because that's my man's birthday month too. I don't know what, I am not, so for those that know me, you know, I am not a horoscope person. I don't know anything about anybody's sign. I know my sign, my man's sign, my kid's sign, and all the rest of it, I don't know anything about. So I don't even know why I'm asking you about your sign, because it's not even that I will know anything about it when you tell me. Okay, so we have pressed open our seams, and now we are going to, let's see. It says for us to, let's see, we cut that. Okay, it says, where are we? Pin the upper sleeve to the undersleeve at the front edge, stitch the front seam, ease back edge of upper sleeve between the notches. And again, I didn't have any problem with doing that. My fabric, both of my pieces are stretchy, so they fit together really well. Oh, you said, yep, you're a Leo. Okay, okay, go ahead, Leo. Not that I know what this means, but you got come across with that Leo energy, the lion. That's what I know about Leo. So and everything else, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I can fake like I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're going to move to step 13, which is that we are going to turn the hem allowance to the outside, and then we're going to stitch the hem extension on the undersleeve in a 1/4 inch seam from the lower edge up to 1 inch. And then we're going to do some back stitching to reinforce. So let's go to the undersleeve. So the undersleeve, let me get my pattern piece so I can remember which one is the undersleeve. Okay, so this one is the undersleeve. The piece that is the curved piece is the undersleeve. And let me just turn my lights on because it's getting super dark. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here is our undersleeve. So we're dealing with this piece right here, the bottom piece. So it is telling us to turn the hem allowance. So let me see if it, okay. So the hem, it's saying it should be 1. And of course they put the little marking right over. Let's see, I'll show it on this one. 1.5 inch. And there it is, 1/4 inch. Okay. And this one is 1/4 inch seam. Okay. So the hem is 1.5 inches from the bottom. That's what it's telling us the hem is. So we are going to turn the hem allowance to the outside. So here we are. So let's just we're going to use one of our pieces. We're going to place it face down. And again, we are only right now doing this on our undersleeve. And so it says, turn the hem allowance to the outside. Again, it's 1.5 inches. So you're going to get your ruler and you are going to fold it up 1.5 inches. That's pretty big hem. but we're going to trust the process. We're doing this together, you and I. And again, we're only doing this on the undersleeve. So we're turning it up 1.5 inches. And it says that we are going to, oh, wait a minute, before we do that, we skipped a step. We're going to step 12. So step 12 says to reinforce the large dots on the upper sleeve extension and the undersleeve extension, stitch along the seam lines at 1/2 inch on each side of the dot, pivoting with the needle in the fabric at the dots. And then we're going to clip to reinforce the dots at the inner corners. So let us start with the undersleeve, because that's the one that we're dealing with first. Reinforce the large upper sleeve extension and the undersleeve extension. So you have these little dots right here. And if you didn't, or you need to redo them, which I do, I'm going to transfer them over. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to transfer those little dots over. Hi, Lavette. Hey, welcome. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So the one thing, I think I mentioned this on the other, the dots, transferring those dots are extremely important because they all represent something that you have to do. So make sure that you do transfer them. And that's one of the reasons why I keep my pattern pieces out until I've completely finished, because you never know what you have to do. So it is telling us to, again, reinforce the large dots on the upper sleeve, and to reinforce the large dots on the upper sleeve extension and undersleeve extension, stitch along the seam line 1/2 inch on each side of the dot, pivoting with the needle in the fabric at the dots. So let me just see where. So I think what they are trying to tell us is to take this piece 1/2 inch in, pivot, and it says stitch. Oh, okay, so I got that for the under piece. Okay, so here we go. For the under piece, I'm just going to tell you what you're going to do. Okay, for the under piece, there is a large dot right here, and you are literally going to 1/2 inch in. You are going to stitch down, pivot at this dot, and stitch over. So that's what you're going to do, and this is on the under sleeve. So at this large dot, which is right here in the corner, you're going to go up and just pivot. I think it says 1/2 inch on each side of the dot. So literally here to here, here to here. So for those that can't see right here, just go down and over. And this is on the under sleeve piece. So let's do that first on each side, and then we're going to figure out together what we have to do for the under on the upper sleeve. So we're just doing the undersleeve piece. Again, we're stitching a 1/2 inch. We're going to the dot. And then we are going to pivot. So you're going to leave your needle in, turn the fabric, and then you're going to stitch a 1/2 inch the other way. And I'm going to just do a quick little back stitch, and I'll show you what that looks like so you can see. So here's my stitch. 1, 2, 1, 2. There's my stitch. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Again, a 1/2 inch on each section. And you get to that large dot, you are going to manually put your needle down. You're going to turn it, and then you're going to go a 1/2 inch the other direction as well. Back stitch a little bit. And this is just a reinforcement stitch. And it looks exactly the same. Again, boom, there's our dot, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. It's probably a little more than 1/2 inch, but you get the gist of it. So we did that to the upper sleeve, and now let's figure out what we got to do for the lower sleeve. So the lower sleeve, so that was our undersleeve. We transferred those dots, and now we got to transfer our dots from our upper sleeve. So let us pull those pieces out. And that is our big round. The side that has the round in is our upper sleeve. So we're going to have that wrong side facing up, and we are going to transfer our dots. And we have 3 dots that we are going to be transferring. And let me just... And we're going to do the same thing on the other. As you can see, my goal is to do all of these, transferring these markings all at the same time. That way, I know I'm doing the same thing on both sides. So again, I'm transferring those dots. Okay, and then it says for this one, okay, stitch along the seam line, 1/2 inch on each side of the dot. Okay, pivoting with the needle. So that's what we did on, are we doing that on this one as well? I think we are doing this on this one. Clip to reinforce dots at inner corners. Okay, so we are doing literally the same thing that we did on the other, which is that we are going to, there are 3 dots here, one right here, one right here, one right here. We are going to stitch down, pivot, and then stitch down the other way. This is, again, a reinforcement stitch. So we're doing that on both sides. And you do have this stitch line right here, just so that you can see there's a stitch line right there. So we are going to put that stitch in, and it is at It is, so basically you're going to stay along that stitch line. So it looks like it's at about 1/4 of an inch from the edge, but you're going to follow that, basically going from one dot to the other. And then when you get to that middle dot, you're going to manually put your needle in, and then you're going to pivot. And then do a quick back stitch. And this is what it will look like when you are done with that reinforcement stitch. And then we're going to do the same thing in the other side. And then when you get close, put your needle manually in, and then you will pivot and do a quick back stitch, and then we are done with that part. Okay, so now the next step, which it looks like we are going to be taking with right sides together, we're going to fold the lower corners of the upper sleeve, matching the smallest dot, and then stitching in a 1/4 inch seam from the fold to the small dot, and then we're going to back stitch. So let me just do this, and then I'm going to show you. Oh, right sides together. So right sides together. Okay, so here we go. So this is, and let me just show you from this direction so you can see our dots. So basically here are our two dots. We're going to take these two dots and we're going to fold them. We're going to, there we go. We're going to fold these right sides together, matching those two dots. So here we go. We folded together. So here's what it looks like. Here is the sleeve, the whole entire sleeve. This is the upper sleeve. You're going to take those two dots. So this is 2 and 3 dots, 1, 2, and 3. These two dots where I have my 2 index fingers, you're going to fold them, matching those dots. And then we are going to stitch right here. This part right here, we are going to stitch. And so let me see. It says we're going to stitch in a 1/4 inch from the seam. So basically we're stitching right on that seam line from the fold to the small dot, and then we're going to back stitch. So basically from the fold to the small dot, and then we're going to back stitch. So right on this part. So let me just show you one more time. This is, again, the upper sleeve. We have 3 dots, 1, 2, and 3. Right sides together, we're going to fold that top corner, and this is 1 dot. We're going to basically line up those 2 dots. So basically it's lining up that whole edge. It's going to go to the edge, and then we're going to stitch at 1/4. So we're literally going to follow this reinforcement stitch from the edge to the dot. That's what we're about to do right now on both of the upper sleeves. That is what we're about to do. And again, just go right to the dot, and you're going to do a quick back stitch, and you are done. And that's what it will look like. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, we're dealing with the upper sleeve. We have our 3 dots, 1, 2, and 3. Taking these 2, folding them over, lining up the dots, just like that. And then we're going to fold, we're going to stitch following basically this stitch line, or our reinforcement stitch, from the folded edge to the dot. And we're doing that right right now. And once you get to that dot, you are going to do a back stitch. And that's it. We're done with that part. Okay. And it is telling us to press the seam open. And then it's telling us to turn the hem allowance to the outside. So this is that little corner. It's telling you to press this little teeny part, press it open, and then you're going to turn it. And this is what it will look like when you turn it. I didn't press it yet, but this is what it's going to look like when you turn it. It'll create this nice little corner, because it'll create this nice little corner. Sorry. There we go. Just like that, because you're also going to be turning, but not yet. But anyway, this is what it will look like, but we're not done yet. So press first, and then we're going to follow the instructions. Hi, Sexy Greta. Welcome. So I'm about to press this. And let me just see. It says, where's my little, here we go. Oh, wait a minute. I don't want to press it too much. Okay, there we go. Press that. And now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just pressing it. What time is it? Oh, it's only 8:30. We're making great progress. Okay, pressed it open. And now it is saying turn the hem allowance to the outside. So we are turning, this is our hem allowance. So remember I said that it was 1.5 inches is your hem allowance. So that's this. So you are turning this to the outside. And pretty much this is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to look like when you have that whole hem allowance turned to the outside. So let me just press that. So it's saying turn the hem allowance to the outside, and it says to stitch the hem extension on the undersleeve at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance from the lower edge up to 1 inch. And so pretty much what it's saying is that once you turn this, your hem allowance, that 1.5 inches up, you are going to basically stitch just this edge right here. You're going to be doing a stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you're going to go up basically 1 inch. And then you're going to back stitch it. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like. And again, you're putting your stitch right at this edge is what you're doing. So I'm going to just press this, and just to make it easier, I'm going to press this. So we are doing pretty good. We're making really good progress. Really, really good progress. Hello, hello, hello. Thank y'all for joining. I really appreciate y'all joining. I hope someone decides to sew along. This jacket is really, really nice. And I hope this sew along really helps, because I could not find a sew along for this blazer dress jacket. I couldn't find one. So I'm hopeful that this will help someone sew along. Okay, so I have pressed it a little bit, And I'm going to now do my stitch 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and then I'm only stitching up it says 1 inch. And again, and we are doing this on the under sleeve, just so that you know which sleeve we're doing, or which part of the sleeve we are doing this on. And then again, when you get to the edge, you're going to back stitch. And that is it for that part. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other sleeve. Again, I'm going to press it. And once you've done that corner piece, everything kind of just folds up naturally, like where it's supposed to be. So you don't really have a hard time. I think it just helps to, and this probably is where it helps to have a little bit of steam. All right, and now I am going to do my stitch. Again, we are dealing with the undersleeve, and we are stitching at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, and then we are going to step 14, which tells us to turn the corners to the inside, pressing up the hem, and the extension on the upper sleeve to the inside. So pretty much here's what we have on both sides, and it's telling us to turn it. Let me just make sure. Yes, it is telling us to turn these to the corners to the inside and then press it. So you are ultimately getting a really nice and neat sleeve. I mean, it's looking really, really good. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and we are going to press this down. So far, so good. We are about to do, I think, one of our last steps not last step, but we're going to basically construct our sleeves. Our sleeves are going to be pretty much together. So while I'm pressing this, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to be doing next with these sleeves. And I'm just really excited about, I think I really like this method because I love the fact that these sleeves are like, this looks so professional. It looks so good. I mean, that point is like perfect. Thank you so much for the likes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I'm just pressing. Okay, so it says that we're going to press under, okay, let me see. Turn the corners to the inside, press up the hem and extension on the upper sleeve. So we have the upper sleeve, so we're pressing up the hem and the extension. The extension is that little, when I keep saying the extension, it's that little bump out part. So it's telling me to press that. And then it is saying, let's see, press up the hem and the extension on the upper sleeve to the inside along the fold line. And you're basically forming a facing. That's what they mean, that part right there. So outside, inside. And then press under 1/4 of an inch on the remaining side of the edge of the undersleeve. Okay, so let me show you that piece. So here is the remaining edge of the undersleeve, and it's telling us to press under 1/4. So we're going to literally press under, and you will feel like you want to do that piece anyway, because remember, you sewed at 1/4 of an inch under this part that's now closed. So you're going to have this little piece that is wanting to be pressed under. So we're going to also press under 1/4 of an inch on that piece as well. Thank you, RV Beads. I appreciate you. And again, for those that do sew this after the fact, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to post a message under the sew along or send me a message on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, either one of those. If you run into any trouble as you're sewing this, I'm happy to assist. Okay, so I have pressed that, and I'm just going to put a couple of clips in here just to hold this down, but I'm going to show it to you anyway so you can see. So that's the 1/4 of an inch that is now pressed down. And then this is what it looks like on the other side. So this is your sleeve, the edge of your sleeve, and you could see it's got these perfect what do you call it? Edges to your sleeve. Perfect. I mean, it looks so good. I'm so impressed with myself. Okay, so now we're going to literally do the same thing on the other side, which is we are turning this, and we're going to press it under. So this is for those who are, well, let me ask this question. Oh, Gaynell, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. So Gaynell just dropped, I think it's called a super chat. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you. So I want to know who is participating in Me Made May. Like, I don't know if this is like, first of all, I just want to share. May is my birthday month. So I told y'all, I don't know a whole lot about, signs, but I love me a Gemini. That's my sign. I love me a Gemini. I must have a little seat on my stool. I got a little stool here. And so May is my birthday month, but May, not that it wasn't my favorite month, because it clearly is my favorite month. It's my birthday month. But I'm liking it even more because I'm loving seeing all of the Me Mades that people are posting. I mean, it's got me in my feelings seeing all these beautiful garments. And it makes it even more important for me that people really know how to sew, because it's so empowering. I mean, the level of confidence that I see in people who sew and can make their own garments and make it fit the way that they want to. It's one of the reasons why my oldest daughter has a sewing machine and knows how to sew. And she's actually been sewing way more than, well, not now because she's in nursing school, but I gave her a sewing machine that I bought like 10 years ago and never used. And she was sewing before I got I don't want to say back into sewing because I didn't sew the first time. And my youngest daughter also has a sewing machine, and she's doing what I did, which is I have it, I'm not really using it, but there might come a time. But she's always so excited about when I make things. So I know it's in there somewhere, and it's going to come out one day. So Dee said, I'm going to try to post an outfit once a week for May. I'm excited because Dee, like, you on fire, girl. You are on fire. Like, I wake up every day and I'm like, what did Dee do today? Let me go check it out. So you've been on fire. I'm going to be looking to see what you are posting. So I'm posting a combination of things that I've made. Like, as you all know, like, one of my goals is obviously to work on my stash, which I have been going through my stash. Everything that I'm sewing in this jacket is all fabrics that I have had. All of these jean materials, all of these linen, some of it is remnants from other things that I've made. And as you all know, like I've told y'all my trials and tribulations with my sewing stash and how it was just like taking up a whole space. And I have really worked my way, like since the beginning of this year. And I'm not saying I haven't bought any new fabric, because I have, like maybe over the last month or so, I bought like a little bit here or there, but I'm not just going in, like, I'm so proud of myself. I went to Joann's today and I did not buy a single piece of fabric because I didn't need anything. I mean, I did look, but I was good that I walked out of there with the 2 patterns that I wanted, and I didn't get anything else. Hey, Tydree, how are you? Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We folded up that small edge 1/4 of an inch, and we have pressed up the other edge as well. So those 2 things are done. And what it's telling us right now, so we have finished that step. That was step 14. And now we're on step 15. And it's telling us with right sides together, we're going to pin the upper sleeve to the under sleeve at the back edge. And we're going to be matching the large dots, pulling up the ease stitches to fit. So let's talk about something that we didn't do, but I want to point out to you, because you may need to do that, is it is your upper piece. Let me just pull that out so you can see. Yes. So between these 2 darts right here on your upper piece, they are telling you to do an ease stitch. So basically what they want you to do is to take and put 2 rows of basting stitches here that you can then maneuver if you need to make this smaller to fit along when you're lining it up with your underarm piece. So that is what they're telling you to do. I did not put those ease stitches in, but I want to tell you about that just in case you do need to put those ease stitches in. What I am doing is I am matching up my fabric pieces. Remember I said earlier that my fabric is stretchy, so I don't really need those ease stitches because it already lines up perfectly. I don't have to ease it in. But if you use fabric that is not stretchy, you may need that ease stitching. So in order to do that, basically you're going to put 2 rows of basting stitches in between those 2 darts, and that's going to allow you to be able to create like some adjustment to the upper. You're only doing that in your upper sleeve so that you can make sure that it matches your lower sleeve. I don't have to do that because my fabric is, both of the pieces are stretchy, and I can just stretch it a little bit and get exactly what I need. So once you do that, then you are literally going to line up those edges, and then you're going to make that adjustment to your ease as you need to. Thank you so much, Black Sewing Network. I appreciate all the love that you're giving. So Black Sewing Network just bought a super sticker. And again, huge shout out to Black Sewing Network. I'm sewing the way I'm sewing today because of Black Sewing Network. So for those that are not familiar, which I feel like everyone in the sewing community, like if you have not been in the sewing, if you've been in the sewing community for any amount of time, then you know about Black Sewing Network. You know the huge contribution that Black Sewing Network is making to the sewing community by, really cultivating an environment where new sewists feel welcome to ask questions. Thank you. Look, Carmen said she gave me a diamond, a shout out for basically listening to my willpower and not buying any fabric. I'm giving a huge shout out to myself. Thank you, Gay Now, for dropping a diamond. I appreciate that, because look, that takes a lot of willpower. Over a 2-year period, it's not quite 18-month period. I literally I had enough fabric that I was Joanne's sister. I could have been Joanne. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna give a huge shout out to Miss Alethea, because that's part of the reason why I entered that. It started as a challenge and it continued on, because I realized I needed a challenge to help me get through all that fabric that I need to get through. So shout out to Black Sewing Network for supporting all of us sewists and giving us an environment to sew in. And then shout out to So Much Talent, Miss Alethea. Make sure what's happening to mine. For entering the new year with a challenge of saying, hey, let's not be wasteful. Let's use what we got. And I'm just continuing the tradition. I'm here for it. Okay. So here we go. We are going to basically stitch 5/8 of an inch seam allowance from this edge, one edge. And let me just tell you what it's saying. Right sides together, pin the upper sleeve to the undersleeve at the back edge, matching the large dots, pulling the ease stitches to make sure that it fits. And then you're going to stitch from the armhole edge to the large dot, and then you're going to back stitch at the dot to reinforce that seam. And let me just tell you where the large dot is. So when you are on, this is your undersleeve. So that, remember we put those 3 dots in, that one that we did that pivot stitch, that is our large dot. So right there is where you're going to stop. So you're literally going to stitch straight on down here, and you're going to stop right here, and you're going to do a little back stitch. So you're going to go right into where you put that reinforcement stitch is where you're going to stop. Right here is where you're going to stop. And I'm actually going to stop just a little bit above that piece. There we go. I'm going to stop a little bit above that piece. So not going all the way down, because it's going to come all the way down here. I'm just going to stop like basically right here before we get to that extension piece is where I'm going to stop. So we're going to do that on both sleeves. So again, I'm folding it. We're going to do both sleeves at the same time. Right sides together. And again, you're going to do the same thing on the upper sleeve if you need to. You should start by putting that, if you have fabric that is not stretchy, you should start by putting that, those 2 basting stitches in between the notches on the upper sleeve so that you can use that to release or decrease or increase the ease as you need to ensure that the upper and lower sleeve fit. For my purposes, I'm not doing that because I have stretchy fabric. This jean has just enough stretch in it that I don't need to eliminate or add. I don't need to use the ease pretty much. Okay, here we go. I am going to be stitching 5/8 of an inch seam allowance from here, and I'm going to be stopping literally right here, right at the top of that reinforcement stitch is where I am stopping. And let's see. All right, let's do that, and then we'll come back. Hey, Anthony. All right, there we go. So we are making great progress. Let me just do it on this side. Again, making sure that you have those raw edges lined up. Five-eighths of an inch seam allowance. Thank y'all so much for First of all of the gifts, all of the likes. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your questions and your support. And if you are sewing along, definitely drop something in the chat so I know you're sewing along. And even if you're not sewing along and you sew this after the fact, definitely tag me because I would love to see what you come up with. Any fabrics that you use, whether you make it into a jacket or a blazer or a dress, how you style it. I'm excited to see all of those things. And now I'm doing a little bit of a back stitch. And there we go. We have finished that sleeve. As you can see, now I'm going to do the other one, exact same thing. Lining up those raw edges. Five-eighths of an inch seam allowance is what we're working with. All right, let's see. We're going to start with this end. And there we go. You say you're going to try to finish your urban Revivo. Tell me if I'm saying that right. Dress dupe. I saw you post like some part of it, and I saw the original. I've seen you've been posting it, so I'm excited to see what you. I felt like you were close in what you just showed. I think it was this morning I saw something. I might not be pronouncing it correctly, but and do my little back stitch, and there we go. Okay, and now we have sewed, and let me just look at this and see what are we doing now. So it is telling us we're gonna do a clip in this corner right here. So let me just show you this so you can see. So this, remember we did that reinforcement stitch right here? We're gonna do a clip down to this corner piece is what we're going to do. We're gonna clip right down to this corner. And I feel like clipping to this corner, we probably need to go ahead and extend that stitch. Remember I said I stopped right here instead of going right here? I think we need to go ahead and just extend. The question that I have is really about how we handle the other side. So just so let me just turn it over this way. So if we finish this, we're gonna bring this revival. Oh, revival. Okay, thank you. Thank you for helping me. I appreciate that phonetic spelling. Very helpful. So the question that I have is, so you see how this piece is kind of already folded back. If we stitch to this dot, we're literally going to be stitching through this piece. And so the question I have is, do we stitch through that piece or not? me see. Let me see. Okay, here's my. So the upper sleeve, not a big deal. Lower sleeve, are we stitching through that piece? Are we stitching through the piece? So I feel like we're not going to stitch through that piece, but we are. So don't stitch through that piece, but do continue that stitch all the way to the dot, but don't stitch through this piece on the other side, on the underside. I don't want you to stitch through it and then you have to end up taking it out. So we are going to basically just stitch down to this piece. So let me just fold it up so you can see what I'm talking about. So when you're stitching down, ignore these little extra threads. The directions tell you to kind of stitch all the way down to that dot, the large dot. And I had you stop like right at the top of the large dot, stitch down through the large dot, but fold out the piece underneath so that you don't stitch through it. And then we're going to make a cut right to, but not through that, right to the reinforcement stitch. So right in that corner. So I'm going to do it and then I will show you what I did. And I'm back stitching. Okay, so I basically just took that stitch and I went right to the dot, and now I'm going to cut through that dot, but I did not. Did I not, or I did? I guess I did stitch through it. I did. To some extent, I did stitch through it. So I was called myself holding it out, but I did not. So I did stitch through it, which I guess is what you end up doing because you've already pressed that piece. So not a big deal. And now I'm going to just make that clip, cutting right through. I mean, to, but not through. And again, just making sure that I am not cutting my fabric. So there we go. That is me cutting to, and it's stitched right there, so I'm not cutting it anymore. But I'm cutting basically right in the center of that reinforcement. That's what I'm doing. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just bring that stitch down. Ooh. And this is one of those things where you just kind of got to trust the process a little bit. That's pretty much, what you're going to do. I was telling someone, I think I was talking to Carmen, and I was saying that I like to make things twice. And part of the reason why I like to make things twice is one, because I feel like the first time I make it, I'm learning it. The second time I make it, I'm perfecting it. And my second ones always turn out like amazing. And it used to be when I first started sewing on live that I would do my first time like before I was on live, and then I would do my second time on live. And it was helpful in building my confidence. It was helpful in making sure that I understood all of the instructions before I got on live and was showing someone else how to do it. But, because time doesn't always allow me to do a full a full sew along, we're learning it together. And so I always appreciate, again, that's part of the confidence that I got from sewing with the Black Sewing Network. Is you don't always have to be perfect, you don't always have to have all the answers. There's just so many people that are so supportive, um, in the Black Sewing Network, that it's just such a great community to learn how to sew in. So again, here I am just cutting to, but not through. So here you go. You see me doing the same thing. It's a little bit because my stitch is right there, so I'm not like 100% on point, but it is doing what it needs to do. Okay, so we have done step 15, which is that we took right sides together. We pinned the upper sleeve to the undersleeve. At the back edge, we matched our dots, and you made adjustments to the ease stitching if you needed to put those in. And then we stitched from the armhole edge at the top, at the large dot, and then you backstitch, and then you backstitch to reinforce the seam, and then you ease that upper edge of the sleeve between those notches. So again, that's where you remember what I was mentioning, that on your sleeve, your upper sleeve, just as a reminder, there is a part where you are going to, between these two notches, you're going to do reinforcement stitches. This will be necessary if you have fabric that is not stretchy, because you will need to be able to make adjustments to ensure those edges fit. Okay, now we are done with that, and we're going on to step 16, which is that we are putting the sleeve into our jackets. So that is where we're at. So we are going to take our sleeve that is already on the wrong side, and we are going to set in the sleeve, matching the markings, pulling up the ease, and we are going to baste stitch. We're going to baste and then stitch again at 1/4 of an inch from the first. So what they're telling us is that we need to also, on this sleeve, we need to do some ease stitching. So that same ease stitching, let me turn this inside out. So that same ease stitching that we put on in the sleeve, we need to do something similar around the armhole, because what they are suggesting is that we may need to make some adjustments to the ease stitching. We may need to use ease stitching to make adjustments to the armhole so that the sleeves fits in there perfectly and you don't have any issues. So unlike my sleeves, my bodice does not, I'm not using any stretchy material in my bodice. So before I assess whether I need to put in any ease stitching, I am going to place my my sleeve through the armhole. So first things first is, let me make sure I'm doing this right. Yes, so I need to turn my sleeve to the right side facing out so that it can be right sides together. So here is my sleeve. Right side facing out. And then I am putting my sleeve, and I also have to make sure I got the right size. And the right sleeve on the right side. Yes, okay, here we go. One more time. Yes, okay. So I'm just doing this. The reason why I'm doing this is to understand whether or not I need to put in an ease stitch. So if you're putting in an ease stitch, you are literally going to put in 2 rows of basting stitches all the way around the entire circle of the armhole so that you can make adjustments if you need to. Again, before I take that step, I am going to see, I'm just basically going to clip to see if I need to actually do that. And I'm just removing an extra stitch that I had in here so I can align the seam allowance. You said you always need to add the stitches to a blazer. It's easier to ease it before fitting it to the jacket. So the fabric, my sleeve fabric, is stretchy. So what I'm trying to figure out is if my armhole is larger than my sleeve, then yes, I will need to put it in. And I guess what I think I hear you saying, Auntie Carol, is that it is bigger, and so I will need to use that ease. But I'm just trying to, is that what you're saying? Tell me. Is that what you're saying? That the armhole is going to be bigger than the sleeve opening? Because if that is the case, then you're absolutely right that I will need to add. But I'm just trying to see if I line this, because what I don't want is, I want it to be nice and smooth and perfect. So I'm just trying to see really quickly, by doing a couple of clips, do I actually need to do it? And yes, even if the fabric has stretch, you still should ease it to avoid stretching the cap. Okay, got you. Okay, so it is, I'm just gonna make 2 points. One is that it does appear that my sleeve is bigger. My sleeve is bigger than my armhole. Not much, a little bit, but you could see it's like bigger. So, and this is one of the reasons why it's really important to make sure you follow your seam allowance, which I feel like I did, but with that said, it is bigger because I can see that it's bigger. And so I almost feel like, do I need to put ease stitching in around my armhole or around my sleeve, because my sleeve is bigger. And I'm not going to need to reduce the size of my armhole. I need to reduce the size of my sleeve in order to make sure that it fits perfectly. So there's a couple of things that I could do, which is make sure, one, that it's 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, so that it is, so that it fits. So that's one. So Auntie Carol, if you're there, I'm waiting for your feedback on whether it will be helpful to do ease stitching around the top of the sleeve instead of around the armhole, because the sleeve is bigger than the armhole. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's not much, but it's enough where I need to, I'm gonna have to do something to ease it in, because it's too much fabric. But before I do any of that, the first thing I'm gonna do is check my seam allowance and make sure that it is at 5/8. And if it's not, to make sure it is at 5/8. And remember, you have two pieces that we put together. So we have the upper and under piece that we stitched. So there's 2 areas that I need to be checking, which is here. Let me make sure this is at 5/8, and I also need to make sure that this is at 5/8. And I feel like this might be, I don't know, it does feel like it is at 5/8, but we're going to check it again. Because it says ease the sleeve just past the notches. Okay, it's always the sleeve. So on this one, let me just show you. Oh, it's always the sleeve. Okay. Oh, yeah, it is the sleeve. You're right. Thank you, Auntie Carol. So let's make another correction. Here we are. We're doing this together. So on step 14, they show us this sleeve that we stitched together. And in that sleeve, there is a picture that shows us having 2 rows of basting stitches. So I just did like a little test, and my sleeve is bigger than the armhole. And so you do need those easing stitches to kind of adjust the size of the sleeve so that it can fit into the armhole and you don't have all this like puckering. It'll be like a nice smooth armhole. So we will have to do that. And the other thing I would just recommend is that on your sleeves, this is probably one of the most important places to make sure that when you cut your pattern piece, that it is exactly, because you have a little bit of extra here, a little bit of extra here. All of those things add up in the grand scheme of things when you're trying to make sure that something like this fits into the armhole. So in order for you to have those precise fits and you don't have all this like buckling or whatever you want to call it around your, you know, where your sleeve fits your bodice piece, you're at the shoulder, you want to make sure that that is precise. So double check your measurements when you cut those sleeve pieces so that you don't have those same problems. And in this case, you have 2 sleeve pieces, an upper and a lower. So what we are going to do is we are going to put a basting stitch, and we're going to do one at 1/4 of an inch and one at 1/2 of an inch. And I'm like, did I overread that? Yeah, they don't really tell you it. So that's how we skip that step, because they don't really tell you, but they do show it in the picture on step 15 that on the sleeve there is those basting stitches. So that's something that's easy to overlook. So again, when you're doing step 15, after you've put your sleeve together, you are then going to basically do the basting stitch. And it is from notch to notch. Again, they don't tell you this. I'm just looking at it on the picture, but you have on your upper sleeve, you have 2 notches. Let me just show you one here. Or you have these circles, actually, these markings. So boom. They do have, what do they have on here? This shows notches. Make sure I'm telling you the right thing. They do have those notches, but I'm going to tell you that these 3 circles, I would just put them in between these 2 circles. So I would transfer those markings onto your upper if you haven't already. I would transfer those, and then that's where I would put that is where I would put your start of one end and to the other. That I would put your basting stitches just around the top part of that. Let's see. You said go past the seams, it works better. Okay. Well, so on this one, let me see. Okay. So it is recommended from an expert seamstress that we go not just to where those dots are, but past the seam. So you know you have an upper and a lower. So So I'm just going to show you this so you know exactly what we're going to do. Here's your two seams. So what is recommended is that we not just go around, not just around this part, but we go basically past this seam. So on this side, maybe go like right to here. And then on this side, you're going to come all the way down and just go maybe like right here. So it's like that whole curved part, if that makes sense. So you'll come all the way down and around. And it'll probably be, I don't know, it feels like it's going to be tricky trying to pull the basting stitch through this seam allowance, but maybe not. Well, we'll try it. We're going to see what's going to happen. No mistakes can happen. You said the dots are not enough room. Okay, you said dots aren't enough room. All right, let's see. So for our, let me see where we at. We're at 2:15. Okay, so we are going to put our basting stitches in, and we are going to set in our sleeve. So about in the next 15 minutes, we're going to wrap up session 2. So we've done about another 8 steps, which we're doing good. We're making great progress, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's work on our basting stitch. Again, 2 rows, one at 1/4 of an inch, and then the second at 1/2 of an inch. Again, both of those fall within your seam allowance, which is at 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so let's do our basting stitch, and we are going to, I set mine at a 5.0 width. So the other thing that you're going to do before you put it in is you're going to pull some of your string so you have something to pull. So I like to do that. And then we're going to get started. Again, 2 rows we're doing. Got down to one side. I'm about to go on to the other side. And again, we are going past the seam. And now what you're going to do is you're not going to cut it. You're going to lift up your foot and you're going to pull a little bit of the thread. And you're going to cut it. And now we're going to do the same thing again. So again, you're doing 1 row at 1/4 and 1 row at 1/2 so that they both fall within the seam allowance. And so here we go. I'm putting my second one in right now. They're literally right by each other. Oh. And again, you're going to do the same thing. Let me lift my foot up. You're going to pull some of the string, some of the thread, I should say. And then you're going to start. And these are all basting stitches, so you don't have to worry about if they show or if you go make it a little bit too big, because you will be able to remove them fairly easily. Okay, and then you're going to lift your foot up and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to pull and leave some tails so you can make adjustments. So for those that want to see, that is roughly what it looks like. So those are my basting stitches that I'm going to use to create ease. And I'm going to do the same thing in the other arm, the other sleeve. Same thing. Again, going just past the sleeve opening. Let me make sure. There we go. Can you see that? Okay, just past the, what is it? The seam on the undersleeve. And again, you're staying within the seam allowance. Oops. I forgot. You got to start by kind of pulling the thread a little bit. Just start so you have a little bit to pull, and then you're going to start. So pull your thread out a little bit so you have a tail, and then you're going to start. Again, one row being at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then the second row being at 1/2. And here we go to the other side. And you're going to lift your presser foot up and pull a little bit of the thread so you have a tail. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just pull a little bit. Come on, thread. Okay, you can pass. Let's see, the dots are not. You got the second seam, you can go before. It's the higher seam. Okay. All right, we're going to put this second row in. Here we go. Thank you for that tip. Again, we created our tail, so we have something to pull, and now we are putting in our second row of E-stitch. So I have a question for you, Auntie Carol. Why do you, when you're creating E-stitches, why do you have to do 2 rows? What's the benefit? Why can't you just do 1 row? Like, as a person who thinks about, is there an opportunity to cut a corner and save some time? You know, again, not sacrificing the end product, of course. Is there an opportunity to do that? I shouldn't say cut a corner. I should say, is there an opportunity to be more efficient? Okay. We have put in our second row. Here you go. And I'm back on the screen. So let's move this out the way. And so that took only a few seconds. Okay, so let me. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to take a look and make sure that actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just transferring that's that one. And this one is this one. All right. So here we go. And okay, so let me just make sure we're not missing anything. Okay. It says you can use, so the question I asked is, for those that may not remember, I asked the initial question, which is, why do we have to do 2 rows of basting stitches? Like, what benefit is that? Is there a more efficient? Can you get away with doing 1 row of basting stitches and still have a great end result? Meaning your sleeve will go in, you can do the ease adjustment that you need to do, and you don't have like any buckling at the top. So Auntie Carol, who is an expert seamstress, and who I go to if I have any questions about sewing and adjustments. She says that 2 rows allows more ease control and less chances of buckles in the sleeve cap. So in other words, it's necessary. And it says you can use 1 thread on some shirts or on thinner fabrics. So there might be an opportunity if you are doing thinner fabrics, but if you have a lot of, you know, if there's a lot of extra fabric or thicker fabric, then you want to stick with the 2 rows. So here we go. All right, here's our jacket right here. Here's our, okay, here we go. So here's our jacket. Wrong side facing out. And we need to make our sleeve so that it is right side facing out. I'm just so in love with this sleeve. I'm not lying. It is just, I love it. Okay. And so then you also want to make sure that you have your double notches go to the back and your single notch goes to the front. That is important. So what is this? This is the back. Okay. So we are putting it in this way right here. See, my little interfacing is kind of peeling off right there. Didn't put it on well enough. And the first thing that I'm going to do is line up my seams if I can, if they do line up. And they do not, because again, we don't have a single, well, let me see, hold on. Yes, we do. The center seam of where the sleeve comes together, that middle seam. I like to line that up and then match up everything else. So I am literally, and I'm going to use a needle because I feel like that has always given me the most success when it comes to, let me just make sure this is right. Yes. So I am using a needle. I can find my needle. Here we go. Putting a needle through the seams. And it's just like, it's always giving me so much success with lining it up. Okay. And then I am matching everything else up. And then you're going to use those threads, pull those threads. I'm just putting them on, because I know I will have to pull them. So I'm going to do some clipping. I'm also opening up my seams so that it doesn't create any bulk. Okay, and then so I'm pinning one side a little bit because again, I already know that the sleeve is bigger and I'm going to have to pull those threads. I already know that. So you line up those notches. And then you also make sure that that center is right at the center. And then you're going to use your ease stitch to kind of eliminate some of this extra fabric to make sure that it fits in there. So I'm just going to put I'm going to use a pen for this to hold this because I know I'm about to start easing it in. And so I'm gonna pull a little bit from one side. Okay, here we go. Looking for my, I'm trying to make sure that as I'm stitching, as I'm pulling this, that I'm able to pull it through that seam. That's where it's a little bit tricky. So Auntie Carol, I don't know if you have any suggestions for how to make sure it goes through. Okay, I guess it's moving. Also want, yeah, it's moving. So I don't want to break my thread, but it is working. Okay, here we go. So just a little bit at a time, you're just kind of pulling the thread and then working those. So I'm gonna do a little bit on each side. All right. Okay, you said pull the bobbin threads. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Pull the bobbin threads only. So the bobbin threads, I'm pulling it on the bobbin threads are the ones that come out through the top side, right? Because those are the ones I'm pulling, and that's the one that's giving me the. I usually put another color. Yeah, so that's what I should have did to make it easier on yourself. That's what I should have did, and I didn't. They're all the same. So Auntie Carol made a recommendation for like, how do you know which thread to pull? So when you get to this part where you are creating those ease stitches, particularly on the sleeve, it's probably helpful to put a different color in as the bobbin thread. That's a really good tip. So that way you know which ones you need to be pulling. But I'm pulling the thread that is on the right side of the fabric. And I'm doing a little bit at a time. And as I'm pulling it, you know, you're getting those little, the fabric is like wrinkling together, and then I'm moving it around till I get to the top. So if that's helpful, that's how I'm kind of creating that like ease in there. So once I've done that, then I'm literally going to, I'm gonna put my pen back in. Ow. Just stuck myself a little bit. I felt that in my soul. All right, putting my pen back in, and I'm just moving that ease all the way around, and I can already see like literally a difference in how this is fitting. Like that gap is gone, but I don't want to do too much on one side, so I'm literally pinning this up, and now I am going to the other side again so that it's evenly distributed. But I can already see the difference just in that little bit of adjustment. So now I'm doing the same thing on the other side. Again, pulling the bobbin thread. Thank you for saying that, because I didn't mention that part. And for those that don't know, it's the top, the one that is on the right side of the fabric, the top. I shouldn't say the top, the right side of the fabric. That's probably the best way. So you're going to pull a little bit, and then you are going to move, or I guess ease it. That's probably the best way to describe it. And then I love the tip that Auntie Carol gave, which is when you have to do this step, use a different color thread. That will help you know which one do I have to pull. That's a really, really good tip. Okay, so with that, I'm moving this around, and Now I am going to start clipping. And again, I can already see the difference in terms of how smoothly this is fitting on here. And then I'm just going to clip it on. And I'm clipping. And I'm clipping. And there we go. Look at that. It is fitting. So I'm just going to make sure that it all is fitting perfectly before I start sewing, because if I do need to do any more easing in there, I can do that. And I feel like this was it. It's like magic. All right, I'm going to sew this arm on, the sleeve on, so that you're able to see. And then I'm going to do the other sleeve offline, because it's literally going to be repeating the same step. And then we're going to end our session, and we're going to pick up in session 3. But let's do this first. We'll take a look at it, and then I will recommend that you do the other sleeve before we come back for session 3. All right, so here we go. We now have everything on. We have our sleeve fully eased in. We have our clamps on, our clips on, holding everything in place. We are now stitching at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So all of those basting stitches, those ease stitches that we put in place will be fully hidden. But if for some reason it is not, don't worry, it's a basting stitch and you will be able to get it out, take it out easily. So again, 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Make sure that you do adjust your stitch width back to 2.5. So you don't do this perfect job sewing and then you only have a basting stitch in. And then also just make sure that your fabric is laying flat, that all of your seams are flush and open, so that there is no bulk in sewing that. There we go. I'm so excited about how this is going to turn out. So excited. All right, again, I'm just checking a couple things. One, to make sure that my raw edges are aligned, that I have no, bunching, that all my seams are flat. All things that will matter. It's better to take your time and have something that is really good than to not be happy because you have some bunching or something that impacts what the final garment looks like. So that's what you see me doing, just making sure that everything is laying flat. There we go. And again, just making sure. There we go. We're going across the center. There we go. Oh, let me make sure that you can see me. Oh, something happened. Oh, well. All right. And there we go. Okay. And we are almost to the other side. And I'm just going to make another adjustment because I just need to pull up and align my raw edges. Again, just to make sure that we don't have any problems. There we go. And usually, I mean, my assumption is that, usually I can stitch the sleeve into the armhole with minimal. I mean, not that this is difficult, but it's definitely worth it just taking your time. All right, here we go. Now, fingers crossed, we don't have any problems. Okay, we are crossing over our initial stitch. I'm going to do a back stitch. There we go. And let's see. Oh my goodness, look at this. Can you see that? It's so beautiful. And wait till I press it out. It's so beautiful. So let me just clip this. So this is looking really, really good. Let me put it on our dress form so you all can see it. And let me just turn it over this way so you can really see this. This is like looking so amazing. Hold on, let me adjust it so you can actually see it. Oh, that's why. I don't know if you could really see it that well. I have to fix it on the dress form because I have this other shirt under here, so it is not going on as well, but you get a feel for how the sleeve is fitting in. So when we come back, when we pick up, so what I'm going to do is, let me just talk about what our next steps is. So first of all, this turned out really, really good. The sleeve is in there. There is literally no buckling. I'm going to press it out really good so that you can see it. I'll probably post a picture of just this sleeve, well, both of the sleeves. I'm going to put the other sleeve in offline. So what are we going to do? So we're going to put in it says when you press the seam allowance only, not the sleeve cap. That's all you need. Okay, thank you. So recommendation, Auntie Carol said, once you put the sleeves in and you go to press, make sure you only press the seam allowance. You don't press that full cap, because I definitely was going to use my ham and be pressing it away. So I'm going to do just the seam allowance only. So we're going to repeat these same steps with the other arm. So just as a recommendation, or as a reminder, I should say, you're going to do 2 rows of ease stitches in your sleeve. You are going to go just past the seam allowance on both. So remember, you have under you have an undersleeve and an upper sleeve. You're going to go past where those two pieces attach. You're going to go around 2 rows, one at 1/4, 1.5 inch. You're going to make sure that your basting stitches are at least 5 inches. That's what I recommend. That's what I do. Or 5.0. I don't know if it's 5 inches. I should say 5.0 centimeters, I think is what it is. But 5.0 is the width, is what I use for my basting stitches, 2 rows. Then you are going to turn your sleeve. You're going to make sure your jacket is wrong side out. You're going to make sure that your sleeve is right side out. You're going to take your sleeve and you're going to put it through the armhole. You are, so right sides together. And then you are going to start by lining your center seam of your sleeve with the center seam of your bodice. And then you are going to start using or adjusting your easing stitches till you have that sleeve the same size as the armhole. And then we are going to put in a regular stitch. So 2.5 is my stitch width for a regular stitch, and you're going to do at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You are going to stitch that other sleeve in, and then when you finish, you're going to turn it wrong side out, or it should already be wrong side out, and you're going to press that seam allowance open, and that will get us through step 16. And so when we pick up, we're going to pick up on, so next Friday, we're going to pick up on step 17, and step 18 is where we are going to be putting in our shoulder pads. So I thought we would make it to step 18 today, but we are at 2 hours and 46 minutes. So we are over our time. We said we would do 2.5 hours each time. So we are over. So we're going to do our shoulder pads next time. So make sure you get your shoulder pads, and we're going to pick up on step 17 next week. Both sleeves will be up. I'm going to finish putting in the other sleeve, and I will post a picture. If you have any questions, again, drop them in the messaging under the video. I'll monitor it, or you can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. And I look forward to everyone coming back and sewing along with me next Friday, where we do part three. And I'll post whether I think we can get through the finishing, or we're going to do a part 4, which we probably will do a part 4, but we're going to pick up on part 17. So thank you again for everyone that has joined today, everyone that is sewing along. Yes, for those that don't know, Simplicity is on sale right now. I did get 2 patterns today. So if you have anything you're interested in, it's $1.99 at Joann's. Make sure you get it. And then on the simplicity.com website, I think all the other patterns minus Simplicity is on sale. So check that out too. McCall's, I think, was $4.99, and some of the other ones were $2.99. But anyway, I will see you all next Friday, May 10th, 7 p.m. We're going to pick up step 17. So I'm excited to see you. Thank you. And I will see you all next week. And thank you again for all of the super chats, all of the shout outs. I really appreciate you all. And I look forward to seeing you all next Friday. Thank you. Bye.